Mr. President, this is Richard Peters, sovereign citizen of the United States here in Dallas, Texas. Please pick up the phone and call me, sir, at your earliest convenience. My phone number is 1-877-365-0042. Mr. President, we have all heard probably the most ambiguous statement by any United States Treasury Secretary in my memory, and I've been around a long time, sir. You don't get on national television and give a broad-based plan like that, especially when that doesn't address the issue of what we plan to do with toxic assets. Mr. President, that was a very poor presentation. I didn't like it. The markets didn't like it. They dropped 200 or 300 points. The Europeans didn't like it. You know why? Because we're getting tired of being told generalities, Mr. President. We're tired of being told about change when we don't know exactly what that change entails. And I'm going to submit, Mr. President, that we need a more than just a change right now. We need a nonviolent restructuring and remodeling of the American economic system, one that we can in the future be proud of, sir. Mr. President, there is no way that you can put anything. Jesus said you cannot add old wine to new wineskins. What Timothy Geithner is doing is taking precious trillions of our tax dollars that our children and grandchildren are going to have to pay back with interest, the way the system is currently designed. And he is going to put all of that money to reward these thieves and these greedy bastards that have robbed the American people, Mr. President. That's not right. It's not fair. If you sign on to it, Mr. President, it tells me that you're not the leader that I thought you were, that you're basically a follower of Democratic Party hacks and Chicago politicians of the old school. Mr. President, you need to stand up now. You need to rise above both Democrats and Republicans, and you need to become the president of we the people of the United States. Quit being so proud of your party, Mr. President. And Republicans, quit being so proud of your party. None of you have done any good, because we're in the state now where you've led this nation to the point where it's almost dead. You've led us to our economic deathbed. Now, here's what I'm proposing, Mr. President. First of all, bring Tim Geithner into your office and say, look, you no longer work for the Federal Reserve, Tim. Your obligation is no longer to the national and international banking system. You work for me. I'm the President of the United States. I've given you a pretty good job, nice salary, good expense account, right to fly around on comfortable jets and be a bigwig among all the people of the world. But you know something, Timothy? I want something in return for that. I want some creative thinking. Every time you meet with me, I want you to present me a brand new idea that I've never heard before. One that is just, one that is fair, one that is simple, and one that a fourth grader can understand. If you can't do that, Mr. Geithner, then I'm going to hire somebody that will. I want creative ideas expressed in fourth or fifth grade language that speak to the heart of the American people that everybody can understand and agree on. Anybody that's writing memorandum that I can't hand to somebody in junior high and have them read and explain it to me back, I want them fired. Get some people in there who can make things simple, make things plain, make things understandable. Mr. Geithner, do you understand that? Start doing that. Once a week, I want you in my office. I want you to have on your calendar, my president wants me to think outside the box and present simple ideas that everybody can understand. And anybody that writes in legalese, which is basically Chinese as far as I'm concerned, is immediately to be dismissed from employment in the U.S. Treasury. And by the way, that goes for every other cabinet secretary as well. When I meet with them, I'm going to make them follow the same rules. They've got to come into me once a week with an idea that's outside the box. Hillary Clinton gave you that idea. When she accepted the position of Secretary of State, she talked to her new staff and said, please come to me with creative ideas. Think outside the box. Now, that's a lady that I like, and if you don't do your job right, Mr. President, well, you're good for 8 years unless, unless the economy collapses and the country goes into death economically. And then what's going to happen, Mr. President? How are you going to feel now as you're flying around in this new jet, living in this big White House that we're letting you live in, and you end up presiding over the economic death of the United States of America? Is that what you want, Mr. President? Fly around for a few years in a big jumbo jet, live in a nice White House, become arrogant in your own power and what you think is your own prestige. Really, don't ever forget that you're president of the United States, but you're still a child of God, okay? He's the one that really is in control, and if he's not, God help you, Mr. President, and God help the United States of America. Now, here's what I want you to do with Tim. Tell him to come in your office. I'm sure he'll show up right on time. Tim, here's what I want you to do. I want you as the Secretary of Treasury to create loans freshly created, to make loans in freshly created United States paper currency to the banks to bring their cash reserves up to 100%. All currency labeled United States notes will be recalled and burned, and fractional banking by executive order is hereby canceled. No more fractional banking. You're going to require the banks to pay 3% interest to the Treasury on these loans that are going to give them the new United States currency. 3, you're going to have the Federal Reserve borrow money from the Treasury, the new currency, to bring their cash reserves up to 100% to cover their demand deposits plus all government funds against which checks are being drawn by the government. The amount of the United States securities held by the Federal Reserve will be credited against these borrowings, canceling an equal amount. That would prevent any kind of, immediate inflation. I want you to do this, Mr. Geithner, and I want you to do it yesterday. And I want you to put it in plainer English than what I put it. And I want you to educate time and time again the American people about why I've instructed you to do this, and why you agree to do it. And if you can't agree to do it, sir, you work for me. I'll accept your resignation today. We want loans. We want you to make loans in freshly created United States dollars, not Treasury notes, to banks to bring their cash reserves up to 100%. We want all currency labeled United States notes to be recalled and burned. And I want you to do it publicly. I want you to bring 1 million of them out there and set fire to them. I'll show up for that and make a speech. Then I want these banks to pay 3% interest to the Treasury on these loans that we've given them to capitalize their banks. We want the feds to borrow from the Treasury the new currency to bring their cash reserves up to 100% to cover their demand deposits plus all government funds against which checks are being drawn by the government. The amount of the United States securities held by the Federal Reserve will be credited against these borrowings, canceling an equal amount. Is that understandable to you, Mr. Geithner? I hope it is, because that's what I want. I'm the President of the United States of America. Now, we want to go to a 15% flat tax, both corporate as well as individual. I want you to be instrumental in coming up with a model tax legislation. Now let's go ahead and tax the rich 25%. Break it up so it's 15-25, and that any business or any American can fill out his tax return at either 15 or 25% on the back of a postcard. Abolish all of the deductions, alternative minimum tax, all that's a bunch of crap. Nobody can understand it anyway. Don't have any more withholding taken out of people's checks other than 15 or 25%, Mr. Geithner. And if you can't do that, turn in your resignation. I'll find somebody who can, sir. Now that's what we need. We're going to have, oh, by the way, we're also going to have an American Jubilee during this period of time that we're in. We're going to clear all credit records. Now that's what's going to happen, because I want people to be able to go back in and start buying stuff. The people that have impaired credit, there are quite a few of them, they'll go out and they'll start hopefully spending money wisely this time. Give them a chance. The Lord's Prayer, Jesus said, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Nobody should be punished with an eternal scarlet letter of any kind. Clear their record. Clear their record right now, and help me get that thing sold to the American people, or put your resignation on my desk. I'll be happy to receive it. Again, do the mortgages with, come up with a national mortgage, model mortgage, where 1/2 of every payment from day one goes to principal and 1/2 goes to interest, with no rates higher than 4%. That's what we need to do. The American mortgage, the way it's designed now, is fundamentally unfair. Why should the American people have to pay interest up front before their principal is reduced? That's why we have a nation of homeless, and we have a nation of people that are going to be obligated for 30 years with money that they could be used to educating their families. Now, this is what I want, Tim, and I want you to do it yesterday. Give me a new idea every week outside the box. Get me off these Treasury notes. Get out of fractional banking. Resign all of your relationships with your old Federal Reserve buddies. You work for me now, man. You understand me, the President of the United States. You don't work for the banks. You work for the President of the United States. Design this the way I'm telling you to design it, or get the hell out of my office and get the hell out of my Treasury Department. Well, Mr. President, if you'd like to call me, you know my number. God bless you, and God bless the United States.